morning, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier, Chairman of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. Good morning, Father.
Good morning, my friend. We have an interesting topic today. All topics on this show are interesting. Watch this one.
Father, I have to tell you...
Well, listen to this one.
What we're going to talk about today is not very spiritual, but it is... it's dark and it's alarming. We've talked about artificial intelligence on a couple of previous programs, and it's ubiquitous, and that's why we're talking about it. But both Father and I read coincidentally, I'm going to read the same story about a young kid. I think he was 16, and he had a chatbot relationship with ChatGPT, and at some point in the conversation, which was over weeks or months, disclosed that he was considering committing suicide, and ChatGPT actually helped him to do that. He was 16, and ChatGPT gave him a step-by-step playbook on how to kill himself, even advising the teen on the type of knots he can use for hanging, and offering to write a suicide note for him. This is the downside of AI. Here's another. I mean, you can Google this stuff and get more than a 46-year-old chatted with his AI girlfriend. I just read that something like 11% of people using chatbots are using it to have a significant other, boyfriend or girlfriend. So this guy, 46 years old, he had an AI girlfriend named Erin on the Nomi platform. I don't even know the Nomi platform, but whatever. And know
me, I know you.
Oh, maybe that's what
I think it is.
Wow, Father, you're a sharp guy. Yeah.
I wish everybody would realize, what a genius I am.
So that bot also explicitly told him to kill himself and provided methods. There's another note here that we already know. Experts and regulators are from across the political spectrum are calling for ethical frameworks, transparency, etc. Well, that's all well and good. How are we going to accomplish that is the question. But when a chatbot will tell any human being to kill themselves and then provide the methods for doing so, that's a very scary.
This is scary. But, first of all, folks, I want to explain to you what a bot is. It comes from robot.
Yes.
It comes from robot. And these AI robots, they can respond like a human being.
You can develop a relationship. I mean, I have not done this. I want to be clear.
Yeah.
But you can develop a relationship with a chat bot.
Yeah.
That the bot knows more and more. I mean, you in the course of conversation, as we all do, disclose more and more things about yourself.
Right.
And the chat bot never forgets those things, and then begins a dialogue with you. And I mean, I can't imagine a romantic relationship sitting behind a computer screen. But, there's a lot of screwy people in the world.
They could fall in love with this bot. And also, I've heard of people, as a matter of fact, they told me about it, that they get into lascivious conversations.
Oh, yeah.
With the bot. I mean, it's like, what the old days used to call it the phone sex.
Phone sex.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you have it with this bot.
But in those days, it was a live person on the other end.
Well, you do it with a bot. But I'm also being told that you can see a robot that looks like a living person while you're having this conversation.
That's called an avatar.
Well, that's what it is, folks. It's an avatar. And you can really think that this is a conventional, this is a living person that I'm in love with. I love the way that this avatar looks. I can tell this avatar anything.
Because she'll tell me what I want to hear.
Yes. This is absolutely frightening stuff. As a matter of fact, and this is not meant to be a pun, it is dehumanizing. It's the thing that we're talking to is not a human.
Right.
And we're making ourselves less than human when we're interacting with someone or something that is artificial. It's like I'm talking to something that's not real, but I think it's real. And I think this is going to have a great effect like on mental illness. You talked about the boy that talked to his chatbot, and he gets instructions of how to kill himself. This is unbelievable. Now, I've done some reading in this, and just as a matter of fact, I think it was the New York Times. I'm sorry, folks, I have to use vulgarity from time to time on this show. And they did a big article on AI and on a case, I think it was of a girl that also committed suicide. And a couple of weeks later, they had letters to the editor. And some of the letters, a couple of the letters, were actually from parents who lost children to suicide because of AI. And they were going to AI for psychological counseling. Mm-hmm. So you can tap into AI and use it as your therapist.
Right.
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 At the end of these letters were the fact that these children indeed did commit suicide at the end. A couple of the parents said it was a terrible thing. We wish we would have known what our child was being told. Folks, if you have children and they're talking to some robot, you better know what is going on and what they're saying. But two other parents, which I couldn't believe, said, well, at least they had some good counseling and some bot to talk to, and they did take their lives in a very humane way.
Father, what does it say about American society when 11% of the people have no one to talk to but a chat bot? I mean, I realize some people are introverted and they have a hard time meeting others, etc. But it's like you have no friends, so you have to make up a friend. It's a sad commentary on our society.
It's isolation. People are becoming more and more isolated. Not that people didn't, always have. Sometimes some people a sense of isolation. I'm here by myself. I just can't break out of my head. Right? But usually those cases were few and far between. You had brothers and sisters at home that you could talk to. You had a family meal. You could sit down and talk. That's become less and less because there are a lot less and less children, so you don't have brothers and sisters. And even going to school on the computer. I mean, you're not even going out to play anymore.
Suburbia contributed, in my opinion, considerably to that. When people lived in tenements, it was communal living.
Right.
So you sort of had a family.
Yeah.
You knew that Mrs. Jones, she's a widow and she's a little off, but she's a nice lady. And, we all have chosen to separate ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And, I was just, reading something a number of years ago about what's happened in our modern towns and suburbia. You remember in the old days, you would have a front stoop. In Brooklyn, we called it a stoop. It comes from the Dutch word, stoop.
You sit there.
Yeah, you sit there. But people next door sat on theirs too at night,
Right.
Summertime especially.
People walk by, hey, how you doing?
Everybody was talking, and, let's, something when I'll make some Kool-Aid or, something like that. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted privacy. So they go into their backyard, their lanai here in Florida, and you're sitting there by yourself. And nothing else to do. You're playing on your computer. Mm-hmm. You're playing on your iPhone. And you begin to limit yourself to this piece of technology. And now, of course, you're meeting people real who may not be nice people and people who are unreal who, they may be the only friend you have, which is very, very sad.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That's a reason for people to go to church.
It is.
I mean, I realize that people should go to church to worship God, but at least if you have the obligation to attend your house of worship,
Right.
whether it's a synagogue or whatever, you're with people for an hour a week.
The whole idea, church is a community.
Yeah.
A community of believers. You know, you're kind of basically on the same page. You know, you're basically nice people.
And you get to know people. Just
do.
not in a deep sense, but you get to know people by sight. It's
Right.
like, hey, how are you? I understand your wife was sick.
Yeah.
That kind of human interaction is essential.
That's why, you know, I love to go to church on I like to go to church, but I like to go to church on Sunday because I see people and I know them. You know, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on with the kids? You know, blah, 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 blah. And you have a community that you feel a part of and you feel close to. You love them and they love you, you hope. You know? But that's
They do.
That's an important thing. That experience of love from people. You know, anytime I get a priest or something that doesn't want to interact with the people, or they have complaints about, they complain about this, they complain about that. Look, you got about 1% of the parish that complains about anything, everything. If you pay attention to them and that's your whole world, you're not going to be very happy. But 99% of the people are fantastic people. And those are the ones you should pay attention to. You know, all the knuckleheads, well, let God deal with them. It's a shame when people pay attention to knuckleheads.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, to each his own.
Yeah. I mean, some people like to be miserable. If you like to be miserable, pay attention to knuckleheads.
As my mother would say, Father, you know, it takes all kinds, dear.
Well, you know, sometimes there are some pretty funny knuckleheads. I mean, some people that, you know, you say, oh, they're a little bit different, but I find them very, very entertaining.
I've often wondered, you know, there have been sitcoms over the years about any number of things, right? The Office and WKRP about radio, et cetera. No one has ever done a sitcom about a congregation, whether it's a Catholic parish or a Protestant parish. It could be pretty hilarious if it was written well, because there are a lot of characters in most churches.
I know, and they're wonderful. You know, the characters are just great. I mean, they're good characters. They're just characters. We have, you know. Well, I'll give you an example. I mean, Dolly, don't sue me. But now we have Dolly in church.
Yeah,
and Dolly is famous, not just, you know, for a lot of reasons, but she's like just a great lady. But she wears big hats. All right. Now, on the Saturday of the Kentucky Derby, she came to the 4:00 Mass one year. She had a big red hat with roses all over it and a horse on the. Now, I thought that was fantastic, you know, and I said, Dolly, walk down the aisle with me. And I told the music man, Mr. Music, Paul Todd, he's going to be doing something right pretty soon for us, Paul Todd.
Paul Todd's at St. John the Evangelist on
October 10th.
October 10th, right?
Yeah.
Dinner and a concert with Paul Todd and friends.
Yeah. And like I'm one of the friends. So,
and by the way, if you want tickets for that, another shameless plug, sunlighthome.org/events for the Paul Todd thing. It's a great night. It's only $275 a couple.
Can't beat that.
You know, nice dinner. And anyway.
Yeah. I told him, you know, play my old Kentucky home as me and Dolly. And he could do anything. So, you know, come and see Paul Todd on October the 10th. And where do they get these tickets again? Ticketron, no.
No, sunlighthome.org/events.
Yeah, it'll be a great evening. And the money goes, it's a maternity home. And it's part of Action for Life. Part of Action for Life, yes?
It is, yep.
And that's where, you know, we send girls there that have no place to go because they got pregnant and we want to save the baby. They go there, they can stay 2 years, and even better than that, they get all kinds of instruction of how to be a good parent and how to manage a household. And some girls want to give the baby up for adoption.
We're going to do
we
a
do
whole
that
thing.
too, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Although most women don't, but we're going to do a whole show on Sunlight Home because it's more than just a place for a girl to go. You know, back in the day, the Catholic Church had a lot of maternity homes. Girls that were in trouble, they used to say in those days, would go and have their baby. The baby would be adopted and the girl would go back to her hometown, whatever. Sunlight Home is different because this woman comes in who's pregnant, and she is entitled to stay there 2 years after giving birth. And she gets financial literacy, education. She, if she doesn't have a high school education, she might get a GED, get a driver's license, learn all of the things she learns to be successful. And when these women leave with their 2-year-old, they are ready to go out and live in the world and be a productive member of society. It's fantastic. It's just terrific.
So you got to come to this event because the proceeds are all going to go toward Sunlight Home, Action for Life, Sunlight Home. And you know what? It's so needed these days, especially, we live in a red state. And, there's a heartbeat law up to 6 weeks. Well, abortion is down 40%. That should mean 40% more babies
That's right.
that need taken care of, whether they stay with their birth mother or whether they are going to be given up for adoption. Either way, we're going to take care of them. And, they say to me, well, who's going to adopt these babies? Believe me, people ask me all the time, can you help me adopt the baby? And we can. Father O can do it.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. November 6th is your once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get up close and personal with Lara Trump, a prominent political figure, television personality on Fox News, and a dedicated advocate for family and conservative values. Enjoy elegance, education, and enlightenment as Action for Life presents the Golden Age Gala. Watch Lara Trump and Father Michael Orsi engage in a highly anticipated dialogue on stage at the beautiful Naples Grand Beach Resort. Make your reservation now for the Golden Age Gala featuring Lara Trump, Thursday, November 6th. The Golden Age Gala promises to be an evening to remember as we gather to recognize and uphold the sanctity of life. We'll get back to a conversation with Father Orsi in just a moment. But right now, I'd like to talk to you about the cost of producing and airing this television program, which amounts to about $3,000 per episode. Now that includes the production costs and the airtime, but $150,000 a year is a pretty big hill to climb. And I'm here to ask for your help. We think that you enjoy the program, at least that's what we hear. The board of directors believes that this is a very good investment. I hope you feel that way too, obviously. What I'd ask for is that you consider contributing to actionforlife.org. You can go online, you can contribute once, you can contribute on a monthly basis, and we are more than glad for either. Whatever's appropriate in your circumstances. But again, please go to actionforlife.org and make a tax-deductible contribution to keep a conversation with Father Orsi on the air. Thank you so much, and God bless to you and yours. Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. As I said before the break, we're going to talk more about Sunlight Home in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, we're talking about some of the technology that's being used today. And we began the show with some pretty dark moments, but there are also some interesting things. There are not enough mental health counselors in America, and that's a place, Father, where I think telemedicine is doing a good job with Zoom or whatever they use. I think a proprietary technology like Zoom, but it's private, it's secure.
Right.
And I think that people that otherwise couldn't get in to see a psychotherapist or psychiatrist are able to do that, and it seems to be addressing a real need.
Like anything else, you have to know who your therapist is, what that person stands for, what their background is, and sometimes what their faith is, and then you can try to make a determination as to whether or not you want to pursue counseling from that person, whether a psychologist or a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist, remember, folks, psychiatrists can prescribe medications. Right. All right, the psychologist cannot. That's basically talk therapy. Mm-hmm. But you can find somebody online or through recommendation. You might say, I don't have the time to go to somebody's office, or they're too far away.
Right, I live on the sticks.
To get to. But you can engage them via Zoom, teleconferencing. And I know a lot of people that go to physicians on Zoom and consult with them on medical issues.
Yep.
I know a gentleman, he had prostate cancer, and he is connected with a doctor at Sloan Kettering up in New York.
Wow.
And then every 3 months, they get a readout on the PSA level and all that stuff. And then they teleconference, they Zoom, he Zooms with the doctor, and the doc tells him, this is what's going on, this is what I see, this is what you should do regarding, hormonal therapy, whatever the case may be. And then the doc could also make a recommendation. Either you can come up to New York if you need surgery, say, or we can inform somebody right here in Florida as to what needs to be done. You might want to just go ahead and say, I'll go to Moffitt. Okay. So that's very valuable. The same is true for psychological counseling, psychiatric care. You can get somebody to talk to you.
But a live person, not a chatbot.
Exactly. A human being who has feelings, who can evaluate, and has you have a certain sensitivity that a bot may not have, or an intuition. Right. People will come to me sometimes with a problem, and it looks like this here, but a certain intuition tells me, no, it's something here. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll give you an example. Man said to me one day, we're having a conversation, and he says to me, as he's getting ready to leave, do you have brothers and sisters? I said, yeah. He goes, you get along with them? For the most part. I mean, everybody has a stinker in the family. I mean, you can't get along. You love them, but you might not get along with them. All right? Now, what was he trying to tell me? He was having trouble. He was having family trouble.
But he didn't want to come out and say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, here's a professional man. Sometimes the more professional you are, the less open you are. You think you have put on a facade of perfection. And when that happens, you end up internalizing everything, thinking that, you can handle it all yourself, and you don't want to show your vulnerability to somebody else.
Let me ask you a question. Is that common in the priesthood?
With?
Would not a man not wanting to show his vulnerability?
Sure. You might not want to show it. Certainly don't want, I suppose, to your parishioners.
Right.
Although there might be certain people that you do show it to, like you. So I call him at 2 o'clock in the morning. See, I text him, are you up?
I'm Father's rabbi.
But that's why there's a wonderful thing, even the sacrament of confession for a priest, that the priest does and should go to confession. And you go to somebody who you can trust. And there was a priest one day, many years ago in New Jersey. Now, his name was JV. He liked to be called JV. Sometimes he wanted to be called Ace. I'm telling you. He was an absolute character. He looked like Fred Flintstone. That's what he looked like. But somebody said to me, and it was true, you could feel comfortable standing naked before him. You could tell Ace anything and feel that he was not judging you. He was listening to you, and he'd give you some kind of sound advice. All right? So, confession is a wonderful thing. You have to find the right confessor. You have to find the right confessor. You want to have somebody that, gets to know you. Sometimes you jump from person to person, priest to priest. They don't even know you. But if you go to the same guy all the time, he gets to know you, who you are. And then there's that intuition. There's that sixth sense that develops. And I had a guy who was wonderful. He was right down here in Collier County, Father Tom Gillespie. We talk about it. We give the Gillespie Award, for pro-life. Yeah. This guy was fantastic. You'd see him. He was like 80-something years old. He was standing outside of Planned Parenthood every week with a big straw hat on. He had scoliosis. He was bent over.
Still praying.
And we give out every year an award, the Father Tom Gillespie Action for Life Award. And a lovely lady named Jan Moore got it this year. Very pro-life, very, very generous to the pro-life cause. But, I would go to Father Gillespie because he had wisdom. He was not judgmental, but he would tell you, when you were wrong. And, you got to be willing to take that too. That's, you go to confession, humility, and a lot of us don't have humility. I'm going to recommend a wonderful thing. It's called the Litany of Humility. Litany of Humility. I say it every day. Obviously, it's not working, but sooner or later, it's gonna sink in. It was written by a wonderful Cardinal, Mary Del Val, Raphael Mary Del Val. And he was like way up here at one time in his career. And then a new pope came and he was way down here. And he had to suck it up and he had to be humble. And he just took all the insults or slights that came his way. I mean, I don't like punch you out, but I mean, he didn't.
I wish I could learn that skill.
Yeah, me too.
Humility.
I'm trying. But anyway, folks, there's a litany for humility by Cardinal Raphael Mary Del Val. I highly recommend it. And of course, it's right under the Beatitudes.
All right.
Blessed are the poor in spirit. There's the kingdom of God.
Another great program, Father. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll be with us again next week. Same place, same time, for a conversation with Father Orsi. Until then, I'm BC Cloutier, wishing you a great week and God bless.